Now, I made a video about the history of Maryland's flag. That meant I had to talk about the seal. The modern-day seal has this text: Caeculus absolutus dominus terrae Mariae et Avaloniae Baro de Baltimore. This translates to Cecilius, absolute lord of Maryland and Avalon, Baron of Baltimore. We already know of the state of Maryland, but what is Avalon? And thus I found today's video topic. Sir George Calvert found success in the court of King James I as Secretary of State in 1619. In 1620, he bought some land in Newfoundland on the Avalon Peninsula. Next year, in 1621, 12 colonists set off for Fairyland in Avalon under the leadership of Captain Edward Wynne. It was the first part of modern-day Newfoundland to be colonized. The colony's first governor was Captain Edward Wynne. His letters to Calvert described what their efforts towards settlement were like. In fact, his July 28, 1622 letter can be found in the description below. At first, they built a mansion house. The following summer of 1622, they built an adjacent parlor, a kitchen, tenements, a brew house, hen house, saltworks, forge, and a defensive palisade. By the winter of 1622 to 23, the colony had 32 permanent residents, and by 1627, they had 100 residents, along with plenty of seasonal fishermen. In 1623, King James granted him the province of Avalon. Avalon was in the Avalon Peninsula in modern-day Newfoundland. George Calvert soon retired in 1625. This gave him more time to focus on his colonial endeavors. He converted to Catholicism, and the king made him the Baron of Baltimore. In 1627, he visited the colony, with Catholic colonists arriving around the same time to flee English penal laws. Avalon became a Catholic haven, known as the first religiously tolerant colony. It was also one of the earliest permanent European settlements. It was well funded as well due to George Calvert's influence. In 1628, he moved with most of his family there to live there permanently. His good first impression on the colony did not persevere by winter of 1629, as he wrote a letter to King James with this passage: "For here your majesty may please to understand that I have found by too dear brought experience, which other men for their private interests always concealed from me, that the middest of October to the middest of May there is a sad face of winter upon all this land, both sea and land so frozen for the greatest part of the time as they are not penetrable, no plant or vegetable thing appearing out of the earth until it be about the beginning of May, nor fish in the sea, beside the air so intolerable cold, as it is hardly to be endured. By means whereof, and of much salt meat, my house, the mansion house, hath been in hospital all this winter. Of 100 persons, 50 sick at a time, myself being one, and 9 or 10 of them died." The full letter is in the description as well. The letter is dated 19 August 1629. He decided to leave Avalon and create a settlement in Virginia, as he obtained a land grant. He, however, died in 1632, 2 years before Maryland's first settlement. Cecil Calvert, George's son, said his father spent over £20,000 for the colony. After Calvert's death, they left a representative in Avalon. George Calvert feared that he might lose his investments to those who didn't put in the effort of the investment. David Kirk and his brothers led a campaign to expel the French from Canada. This expedition was why Kirk was knighted in 1633. Those efforts were in vain, as Charles I returned to France all their lost possessions. In 1637, he and others were granted co-proprietorship of all of Newfoundland, after Lord Baltimore was accused of abandoning his colony at Fairyland. Kirk, his family, and 100 settlers seized Lord Baltimore's property. He became the first governor of Newfoundland. After a previous 1651 court case related to keeping taxes collected in the name of the government, he was charged for seizing Fairyland in 1638, and Kirk was jailed in England. He died in January of 1654. The town was raided by the French in 1696. The province of Avalon had a peak population of 100, with many seasonal fishermen. The capital was the town of Fairyland. They had no flag, so they just used the English flag. The colony essentially died when David Kirk took over. Even though the Calverts pressed their claims, they never tried to take it back. Fairyland persevered and remains an inhabited town. Today, the town remains and has a population of 414 according to the 2016 Canadian Census, an 11% decrease from 465 in 2011. When Googling Fairyland today, you'll find a plethora of historical and tourist locations. Avalon's reputation as a Catholic safe haven is interesting, as within the 13 colonies, Maryland was the same. They were both colonies set up by the Calvert family. I just find it very interesting how the Calverts had a colony previous to that of Maryland. I just wish giving places unique flags was more commonplace back then.